did Ajam finally join? Ajam Condottieri were. Have they joined the battle proper? They have. So Ajam have actually joined the war now. After having reneged on the alliance. We do have Ajam forces marching in. So what does Ajam bring to the table? 13,000 manpower, which is a decent amount, and then just numbers. And in fact, let's take a quick look at the numbers at play here, because I'm suspecting that they're going to be quite big. Not quite 500,000, I don't think. 200,000 infantry versus 130,000. 60,000 cavalry against only 20,000. So the Tunisian Andalusian side really not favouring that at all. 82,000 artillery versus 53. Although the combat width right now is only... I can never find this. 60. No, 29. So only 29 artillery are actually going to fight in those battles. So having such overwhelming amount of artillery won't really matter, except for sieging. And there's going to be a lot of sieging. This is going to be a very, very high attrition war because of the amount of sieges and counter-sieges that are going to be going on. This is an extremely fortified front line. This right here is what I was really hoping to see between the Mamluks and the Ottomans when the Ottomans struck against the Mamluks. Unfortunately, the Mamluks had not established that. They really should have. Like, the Ottomans are never going to be a friendly neighbour. Helson has almost no artillery in his armies. Wonder why. Because artillery at this stage is still not going to do very much in the back row. They'll provide a little bit, but this is not the Age of Fire. This is still like the dropping off of the Age of Shock. So having massed artillery in your army is not a great idea. The main role of artillery at the moment is sieges. As I've said before, artillery really comes into its own with chambered demi-cannon and especially leather cannon. Leather cannon is really the turning point. Because we're still using cast iron cannon, that's still mostly artillery. It's useful. It's enough where if you had parity and you had artillery they didn't, it would be enough to turn the tide, but it's not going to win you the battles. Artillery also adds the defensive pips to the front line, so it saves manpower. That's true. That's very true. But it's not going to have the damage potential that that later artillery does. The Kamchundals have cut off the Russian-Siberian frontier, yes. Yuan has definitely been calling on the Kamchundals to block off Russian-Siberian expansion, limiting it to just this area. Probably the least amount of space able to do that. And now the attacks have started to occur on Uran territory proper. Uran rallying their forces, but it's definitely dropping back, letting attrition do its job, marching through Siberia. But Helson is keeping his stack small enough that he's not really taking attrition. In fact, if we go switch over to Russia, we can take a look at the supply usage for this. 34, 29, 25, 25, 24. So even in Siberia, not going to have that many supply issues for the moment. Does Russia have a bonus to supply usage? They might do. Meanwhile, the Mamluks are trying to retake Alexandria right now. Hindustan marching in, taking on all of Andajam, taking on all of these areas. And
hey, Bossman, one more quick question. Similar to the last times, going another 15 minutes over?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next.
Cool. So, yeah, the offensive forces being forced to withdraw in the face of just these massive numbers that are being pulled in. And this is definitely one of the strengths between the Mamluk-Hindustan alliance, is just the amount of resources they can bring to bear when threatened in this way. But again, everything they're losing is to the direct benefit of the Ottomans. In fact, I strongly suspect the Ottomans have stayed out of the Russian-Uran conflict because they want to conserve their forces and their power to strike south when they're able to. Because they're not going to be able to strike directly at Hindustan. Hindustan is still the big bad in terms of the Ottomans, I suspect. But what they can do is weaken Hindustan's allies, and the more territory they take from the Mamluks is just more Ottoman territory, which means more money, it means more manpower, it means more force limit. It's everything that Hindustan does not want to see to the Ottomans. So the real enemy here is not Tunis, it's the Ottomans. The troops look like they're in the steppe, the Ottomans. That's true. Are the Ottomans still allied with Russia? They are, but they're still not really willing to do anything. In fact, they are all drilling. Or morale is... No, that's drilling. Zero morale is drilling. Another battle. We have got 200,000 versus 85,000. 100,000 now stepping in. We have Milan and Andalusia marching in. 120% discipline For Hindustan, they do have a full back line of artillery versus a full back line of artillery. 5.9 morale versus 5.7, so the morale differences have closed in. But this discipline is pretty high, although the Papal States also have 115%. 98,000 infantry against 74,000, 30,000 cavalry against 12, and then roughly the same amount of artillery. It does look like the offensive forces are taking more damage from each of these strikes. Although, yep, they're starting to get some artillery in the front row, which is definitely never a good sign. And we've got a couple more Bengal forces marching in. We've got Portuguese also hired by the Papal States. So the Tunisians and Papal States are really investing very heavily in this war. Perhaps a little bit too heavily. And I do wonder if they take too many casualties, who's going to be watching them? Britain? Maybe? Although this doesn't involve Spain. 3,000, 2,000 losses, 150,000 versus 120,000. Gotta love battles like that. But once again, the defensive powers have brought enough troops to bear that they're able to see their opponents off. And one of these days, I'm going to catch some Hindustan infantry because I want to see how good they are. And yeah, Spain is one that could be watching the Papal States, wanting to get some of their Neapolitan territories back again. Possibly France, though France has been very, very passive, so I doubt it. I would say Britain. Britain's the one that stands the most to gain from the Papal States falling. And Tunis falling. Maybe, oh no, Andalusia's on their side. Congo, perhaps? Though Congo has also been fairly restrained in their aggressive actions, so I can't really see them, like, using this. And Spain and Portugal, how friendly are they? I mean, they're allied. So I don't think that Spain's going to be going after Portugal, although it's only actually Portuguese condottieri. And the only one that might go after Sweden would be Russia, and Russia's got their own problems. Meanwhile, over here, the Russian forces now actually taking some attrition as they march into the enemy territory. In fact, switch over to Russia. I want to see what the supply situation here is. Still 26, it's just the fact that it's hostile territory. They do have improved foraging, so they are taking 25% less attrition. And I think that is going to be the decider, is how much attrition they take. So right now, Russia has lost 24,000 manpower to attrition, whereas Iran's lost none. Russia's still got 75,000 manpower, Iran's got 33,000. So Russia's still having the numerical advantage over there. No Scorched Earth? I don't think so, because we've not seen Iran forces running ahead of them. They've just kind of formed a line over here and then just stayed there. What I would have liked to have seen from Iran is just a flood of one-man mercenaries, and then just use those single mercenaries to do Scorched Earth. That would be costing Russia a lot more. Surprised Ethiopia hasn't been in the war. Ethiopia has also been fairly quiet. Is Ethiopia even in the game? No. Right, that's right. I forgot about that. Ethiopia's actually quit, I think. So Ethiopia should have been protected this session, and they're going to be open target next session. I wonder why that wasn't in my notes, because I did know about it. Yeah, I'm going to have to double check, because I know all the players were present, but I might already have marked Ethiopia as not being played. So in fact, Meanwolf could move into Ethiopia if he wanted a proper country to play in. Who are the player countries again? Everything with a colour. So most of the world at this point. Tunis, Inca, Ajam, Andalusia, France, Iran, Ulm, Hamburg, Russia, Papal States, Congo, Philippines, Portugal, Japan, Delhi, Netherlands, Commonwealth, Prussia, Mamelukes, Ottomans, Kamchandals, Britain, Milan, Ayutthaya, Spain, Hindustan, Sweden, and Austria. And I am just reading all of the names here on the right hand side. Everything with a colour. Ah, I see. It's the best description I could give. I'm on the player map mode. Yeah, 30 players at the moment. Including me, so actually 29 players plus an observer. So Alexandria siege has now been lifted, so the war score is going to be ticking in favour of the defenders now, and in fact it is. Only +8. In terms of battles, there have been a grand total of 2 battles in this entire war. Both of them absolutely colossal battles with more casualties than entire campaigns would have inflicted. For a grand total of 4 war score. Rip Euron? I don't think so. Euron's playing a very passive, very oh dear, battles, battles, battles. Russia being sent packing. One of Euron's forces being sent packing. Probably because of the distances involved. It's going to be very difficult to coordinate, excuse me, all of these smaller stacks. I would not like to fight out here. I really wouldn't. We got 21,000 Uran forces with very low morale being chased down by 20,000 Russians, 40,000 Russians. These guys don't have a general. Uran do. It is a step battle, which means that Uran's cavalry forces are going to be more effective. 6.3 morale versus 5.5, 110 discipline against 104. But if we take a look at Uran, they've got plus 20% cavalry ability, 10% for the infantry, 20% for the Russian artillery. They are quite good. And now we've just got the cavalry versus the infantry. The reinforcements still haven't arrived. Now they have, just in time to turn the tide of this battle, although an incredible amount of damage was done to that first group. And it does look like Uran is now going to be sent packing, but they did receive their 25% shock bonus from having cavalry in the steppe. And there we go, Uran once again being sent packing. The Russians having once again consolidated their front lines, but casualties definitely inflicted. And if we take a look at this, 75,000 losses for the Russians, 66,000 for the Uran. So right now, Russia's on almost 100,000, or over 100,000 losses. Meanwhile, in this war, I want to take a look at the casualties because they're probably going to be painful. 241,000 losses for the defenders, 207,000 losses for the offenders, 53,000 to attrition, 37,000 to attrition for the defenders. And yeah, that's definitely a lot of manpower being lost. Tunis is tapped. Papal States still have 13,000. Andalusia are down to just 7. Mamluks down to 6. Ajam tapped. Hindustan 21,000. Hindustan are having several of their own problems with separatists rising. And I feel like somebody just peaced out. Russia and Iran just peaced out. What happened? I think that Russia took a bunch of territory there. Yes, they did. So all of the stuff we just hashed out here is what Russia took from the war. So Iran peaced out and Russia was able to gain really quite a significant amount of land. Although just how much development that translates into, I'm not sure. Where are the mercenary stacks? I suspect that we're going to start seeing some mercenaries appearing. If we just click back over to you, we can click on... Oh no, we can't because they're not actually yours. Where are the Mamluks? Oh, there they are. Mamluks still using primarily infantry. If we switch over to Hindustan, they are still infantry. And at this point, I mean, Hindustan's probably okay, but for the likes of Mamluks, I would definitely be switching out infantry so that you're not reinforcing infantry and you save your manpower to reinforce the cavalry and the artillery. So you're using infantry mercenaries and then artillery and cavalry regulars. For Tunis, they are out of manpower. Their forces are all still just infantry. Really got to start consolidating some of these infantry units. They're going to be fighting at very low capacity and just taking up space in the front lines, meaning you take even more damage because they're fighting at worse capacity. They are starting to bring in a couple of mercenaries, though not a huge number. If we take a look at Andalusia, we can see that Andalusia also having similar problems. The war is still ongoing, even though I'm noticing Portugal being exiled and being sent away. Probably no longer paying for those condottieri. Russia took half of Kazakh and a little bit of Iran. That was west of the Urals. Yeah. Iran is just out of date, I suppose. No help to really win those big wars. I think that Iran is still kind of weakened from their fights against China. Like, they've been taking a lot of territory over here, and while it may not look like it's going to be a big threat against them, they have been just this drain on manpower and on resources for them, which Russia has not had. Russia has spent all of last session and everything up till now building up. Like, Russia is right now in a very strong position simply because they've not been attacked. They've not been threatened. Threatened, sorry, but not attacked. And it does look like the offensive players are starting to retrench a little bit. Starting to see a lot of Ottoman ships moving over. We're starting to see some Ottoman forces moving down to the borders, although they are still all drilling. And actually, curious, how is the professionalism looking? Professionalism still just 14% for you. It's 20% for you. Tunis is tapped. They're at 3. Papal States. Papal States have a good amount. They're at 40%, so they could tap some of that for manpower if they wanted to. Though I think that would probably be a bad investment. And now I'm very curious. How are we looking in terms of professionalism? Who is the most professional nation in the world? It is Milan with 60% professionalism right now. Then France at 43. Papal States actually coming in third with 41. Spain with 37. Austria 34. Russia with 25. Mamluks 20. Netherlands with 19. Actually, not that much professionalism, considering it's 1586. A little bit surprised by that. Professionalism is something that I do tend to work on pretty heavily. Tunis cedes Cairo, Rosetta, and Algarvia to the Mamluks. That is a peace offer being sent. Will it be turned down in disgust or accepted? Oh, no, it's probably been turned down because the Mamluks are marching in again. We've got 87,000 against 45,000. 45 additional Andalusians coming in, but then also 78,000 combined Hindustan and something. 130,000 in this battle. Why can't I? There we go. 5.2 morale versus 6. 100% versus 120. This looks like it's going to be a fairly one-sided battle. Are these guys going to be caught out attacking into this battle? We've got Milan coming in. The entire back line has been defeated. You've got all of the artillery and stuff in the front line. Here comes Milan filtering in. Andalusia, small stack that hasn't been sent in. Oh no, they're thinking about. Oh no, they're coming. Oh no, they're thinking about it again. Andalusia going, nope, not interested. As most of the forces sent packing, and there we go. That was a big victory for the defenders there, really bringing to bear the numbers that they have at their disposal. And the Mamluks are just watching, waiting